My beloved child, I see within you a very quiet gentleness, like the first breeze of morning moving through a garden after a long night. It does not come rushing in like an explosion of joy, nor does it make you leap up with momentary excitement. It comes more quietly, more deeply, like the moment your shoulders no longer have to carry an unbearable weight hour after hour, like the moment your hands slowly stop gripping the things you thought would fall apart if you let them go. That lightness is not a sign that you have lost your zeal. It is a sign that I am freeing your zeal from the panic that once clothed it in the wrong garment. Before, you thought that to live seriously, you had to always be tense, that to be faithful, you had to constantly force yourself, that in order not to miss what I give, you had to run until you could no longer hear the rhythm of your own breathing. But now I am teaching you something different. What is led by me does not need to be fueled by fear. Because my fire warms and lights the way, it does not burn you up along the journey. There are things you do out of love, and there are things you do out of fear of falling behind. From the outside, they may look the same waking up, the same effort, the same service, the same completing of what needs to be done. But inwardly, these two sources create two different streams. When you act out of fear, your heart dries up very quickly. You begin to hear every reminder as an accusation. Every request is a verdict. Every delay is a sign that you are about to fail. But when you act out of love, even if your body and soul grow tired, there remains within you a small spring that does not run dry. You still need rest, still need care, still sometimes need to stop, but you are not gnawed by the feeling that you are allowed to exist only if you are constantly proving yourself. My child, I have not come to extinguish the zeal within you. I have come to separate it from the noise that has distorted it, so that the goodness in you will no longer be driven by the whip of anxiety, but guided by the hand of love. Remember the story of Martha and Mary in the small house where I once came to visit. Martha was busy with many concerns, and her heart became troubled, not because serving was wrong, but because heaviness had entered into that service. She wanted to do what was good, but that good thing began to turn into pressure. She was standing near me, and yet still weary from comparison, still troubled because she felt she was carrying everything alone. Mary, however, sat and listened, not to avoid responsibility, but to receive the necessary portion before entering into everything else. Do you see? I do not despise hands that serve. I simply do not want those hands to be separated from peace. I do not rebuke diligence. I call you out of the frantic rushing that makes you forget that my presence is the place from which every good work is born rightly. If you bring panic into holy work, even that work can become a burden. But if you begin from remaining with me, even the smallest task will carry the fragrance of grace. Therefore, do not rush to force yourself to change your entire rhythm of life in a single day. I am not standing before you with a long list, demanding that you instantly become completely calm. I know the old reflexes that have followed you through many seasons. I know you have grown used to flinching when life slows down, used to mistrusting peace, used to seeing rest as dangerous, used to thinking that if you do not push yourself, you will miss what is good. I do not despise those habits, because I understand that you once used them as a way to survive narrow seasons. But my beloved child, what helped you endure an old season is not always suitable for entering a new one. The coat you wore in the cold night may have protected you, but when dawn comes, I will teach you to take it off, not because I deny that it was once necessary, but because you cannot walk lightly if you keep carrying the weight of yesterday's night. What I invite you to do today is very simple. Pay attention. Pay attention when a hurried voice rises within you and begins to say that you are not enough, not fast enough, not good enough, not worthy enough. Pay attention when you are doing an ordinary task but your back is tense. Your breathing shallow. Your heart quietly afraid that if you stop for even a moment, you will be left behind. Pay attention even when peace comes and you find it strange, even unsettling, because you are not used to a day that does not chase you from within. Do not quickly condemn yourself for those feelings. Simply bring them before me. Let me sit with you in that in-between place, where part of you wants to believe and part of you is still afraid, where part of you wants to rest and part of you still thinks resting means losing, where part of you wants to follow a new rhythm and part of you still clings to the old drumbeat of panic. I do not leave you in the in-between. It is there that I will teach you to discern which voice comes from love and which voice comes from fear. There is a very hidden worry rising within you as I speak to you about a new season. You fear that if you slow down, what you have waited for so long will pass you by. You fear that favor remains only with those who are stubborn enough to endure pressure, hard enough not to admit exhaustion, quick enough to seize every opportunity before the door closes. Because of this, even when I open a new door, you still step into it with the breathing of the old season, holding your breath, tightening your heart, looking around, staying on guard, trying to control every detail. But I speak to you with gentleness and firmness. It is not what I give that exhausts you, but the way you carry fear into what I give. My grace is not given to become a chain. The door I open is not meant for you to walk through, only to imprison yourself again with pressure. A new season cannot nourish you if you continue to keep the old climate inside your heart like a closed room, refusing to let in the light. I am not calling you into a passive life, my child. Resting in me does not mean giving up, neglecting what has been entrusted to you, refusing to move forward, or ceasing to do good. Resting in me means allowing every step to be placed again under my guidance. You will still work, but not like someone being hunted. You will still make an effort, but not like one who must purchase love. You will still move forward, but not with the breath of panic. Some tasks require perseverance, but perseverance does not have to be accompanied by tension. Some callings require endurance, but endurance does not mean you must forget that you are a beloved child. I want you to be strong, but with strength nourished by peace. I want you to be zealous, but with zeal purified from fear. I want you to go far, but to go far in the rhythm I give, not in the rhythm imposed on you by invisible pressures. Then you will see that the new climate does not take your strength away. It gives back to you another kind of strength, clearer, more enduring, deeper. It is the strength of one who no longer has to run in order to be allowed to live. It is the strength of one who knows how to stop without condemning themselves, how to work without crushing themselves, how to rest without thinking they have betrayed their calling. When the climate within you changes, the things outside you are also seen in a different light. The same responsibility, yet no longer a heavy yoke. The same road, yet no longer like a desert without shade. The same rhythm of service, yet no longer draining you until only dust remains inside. I will teach you to live in the new season with a new breath, so that what I give can blossom instead of being twisted by old anxiety. My beloved child, there is something you will learn, not in your noisiest days, but in the moments when you dare to sit down before me without trying to appear as though you are still fine. You will understand that rest is not a gift given only after you have completed every duty, nor is it a reward reserved for those who no longer have shortcomings. Rest is the ground I place beneath your feet, so you can walk without being crushed by the journey itself. I am not telling you to stop forever, nor am I taking away the road you must walk. I simply do not want you to walk while bleeding, move forward while hiding, do what is right while inwardly collapsing, little by little. Some people think the faster they rush, the closer they are to the destination. But I see more deeply. If the foundation within is not steady, you may arrive and still have a shattered heart. So I teach you to rest, not so you will lose momentum, but so each of your steps may have order, peace, and my presence supporting you from beneath. There are seasons when you think you must resolve everything before you are allowed to breathe. You tell yourself, when the work is stable, when your heart is no longer tangled, when others understand, when the future looks brighter, when old wounds no longer ache, then you will allow yourself to rest. But my child, if you keep waiting until everything is perfect before you lay down your burden, you will collapse on the very road where I want to lead you. I have not called you to live like someone paying a debt for your own existence. I do not want you to turn every day into a silent competition in which you grade yourself by what remains unfinished. The peace I give does not come only after every door is opened. It comes like a key that helps you pass through each door without losing yourself. When you rest in me, you do not become lazy, you become clear-sighted. When you lean on me, you do not become weaker. You stop wasting strength on fears I never sent. I know there is a very hidden hesitation deep within you, a hesitation that often causes you to open to me only the parts that have already been tidied. You know how to present before me the bright rooms, the places where you still believe, still know how to pray, still know how to give thanks, still know how to smile. But there are narrow corridors within you that you seldom mention. There are doors that have long been closed, behind which lie memories you do not want to touch, questions you do not dare to speak, nights when you cried until you were exhausted and yet had to rise the next morning as though nothing had happened. You fear that if I step into those places, I will see that you are not as strong as you have tried to appear. You fear I will see the weariness you have covered with responsibility, the confusion you have hidden with a smile, the weakness you have buried beneath the words. I'm fine, but my child, I do not need you to open the door in order for me to know. I was there before you ever learned how to lock it. I do not enter your life like a distant guest who must be received in the cleanest room. I am the one who has known you from the beginning, the Father who saw you before the world knew your name, the one who understands every hidden corner not to find fault, but to heal. You may hide the dark corridors from others, but you do not need to hide them from me. You may cover the tremors of your heart before the world, but before me, you are allowed to stop performing. I saw you leaning against the locked door, silently sliding down in loneliness, trying to swallow your tears for fear someone might hear. I saw the afternoons when you looked out the window, not truly seeing the scene before you, but gazing into some nameless distance and wondering when this burden would become lighter. I saw the times you passed quickly by a memory like someone walking past a room with smoldering fire inside, afraid that if you stopped, everything would flare up. I saw it all, and I did not turn my face away. Remember the story of Hagar in the wilderness. She left the familiar place with a shattered heart, carrying her child in a despair heavier than she could bear. When the water had run out, when her eyes could no longer see a way forward, she placed her child beneath a bush and withdrew, because she could not bear to watch the pain before her. But I heard the crying in that wilderness. I called to her in the desert, not to rebuke her exhaustion, but to open her eyes so she could see the well of water nearby. Do you see? There are times when what you need is not a long sermon, but opened eyes to recognize that my care is still present in the place you thought had become only drought. I did not despise Hagar because she despaired. He met her in her despair. I did not wait for her to become strong before giving water. I gave water right when she thought everything was over. In the same way, my beloved child, I do not wait for you to become neat and orderly before drawing near. I do not stand outside the messiest rooms of your heart and say, "When you have cleaned this up, I will come in." No, I enter with gentle light, not blinding you, not shaming you, not overturning everything in order to accuse you. I enter like a father who knows his child is weary, who knows there are ruins you cannot clear away with your own hands in a single day. I do not come to expose you to humiliation, but to place each thing back where it belongs. I do not come to ask why you are weak, but to let you know that weakness does not make you lose. My love, I do not come to measure how tangled you have become, but to loosen each knot with patience that does not run dry. So do not fear the truth before me. Truth does not make me love you less. Truth simply opens the way for grace to touch exactly where it needs to touch. When you say, "Lord, I am tired," that is not failure. It is the doorway of honesty. When you say, "I do not know how to keep going," that is not the end. It is the moment you stop pretending you are self-sufficient. When you say, "I am afraid," I do not leave. I come closer. For my love is not built upon the best version of yourself that you present. My love embraces even the parts you once thought no one could bear. You do not need to polish your pain in order to be accepted by me. You only need to bring it, or if you do not yet have the strength to bring it, let me sit with you right beside it. My beloved child, if tomorrow the wind rises along the road you walk, do not quickly think that you will fall. Some winds come not to break you, but to show you how deeply I have caused your roots to grow. In the past, even one contrary breeze was enough to make your heart waver. One cold word enough to make you withdraw. One unexpected change enough to make you think everything was collapsing. But today, you are no longer a child standing alone in an open field with no place to lean. I have sown within you a quiet resilience, unshowy, unnoisy, yet strong enough to keep you standing amid the things that once made you tremble. You are not steady because you have never been weak. You are steady because I came to the place where you were weakest and placed there a foundation of peace that the world did not give. Therefore, when you notice that you no longer react as you once did, recognize it as the mark of my hand. The storm outside may not yet have changed direction. The words of others may still be sharp. The circumstances may not yet have softened as you hoped. But within you, there is now another sky. That sky was not created by your willpower, nor gathered from passing compliments. It is the place where I am with you, where fear no longer sits on the throne, where you learn to breathe slowly and know that you have not been abandoned. I did not promise you that every day would be windless. I promised that when the wind comes, I will still be there, and my presence is enough to make a once weary heart stand again without needing to shout that it is standing. Then there will be people who pass through your life in the days when they have lost their shade. They may not say that they are exhausted, but their eyes will tell what their lips conceal. They may still smile, still work, still speak ordinary words, but within them they are searching for a place without judgment, a place that does not force them to be strong, a place that does not use their pain to preach too quickly. When that happens, do not think you must become perfect before you can support anyone. I have never required you to be without blemish before you can be used in my hands. The very places I once bandaged will teach you how to touch another person's wound with tenderness. The very nights when I held you will help you understand the value of a quiet presence. You give shade to the weary not because you are the tallest tree in the forest, but because I have nourished your roots with mercy. Remember the story of the Samaritan woman at the well. She came in the heat of the day, at a time when others usually avoided going out, perhaps because her heart carried many things she did not want anyone to see. She came only to draw water, but I met her there, not with condemnation, not with a dismissive hand, but with a conversation that opened the door to new life. When she was touched by mercy, she did not need to become perfect in a moment before returning to the town and telling others about what she had encountered. She simply carried the truth that had just awakened within her, and that truth caused many to pay attention. Do you see? I often use those who have once thirsted to point the way to living water. I often use those who have once been avoided to bring the good news of being received. I often cause the one who once lowered her face to lift her head, not to boast in herself, but to testify that grace can find a person at the most ordinary well of life. So do not despise your story. The roads you have traveled are not meaningless fragments. In my hands, even tears can become seeds. Even silence can become a school of wisdom. Even the days when you thought you only had enough strength to breathe were preserved by me as the days when you learned life again from the beginning. When someone asks why you still have peace, you do not need to build lofty words. You do not need to appear as though you understand every mystery. You only need to speak through your life, through eyes that are no longer panicked, through steps that are no longer fleeing, through gratitude that no longer depends on the weather outside. And if words are needed, you only need to say the simplest thing: I was there. I was there in the days when you could not see the way. I was there when you thought you had been forgotten. I was there when you cried without sound. I was there when you stood up very slowly, so slowly that no one noticed. But I saw every movement. Some truths become holier the simpler they are. You do not need to win every argument to prove that you belong to the light. You do not need to surpass everyone to prove that you have value. You do not need to make everyone understand you before you are allowed to be at peace. I have not called you to live like someone who must constantly present the reason for your existence before the world. I have called you to live as one who is loved, held, and led step by step. Let the life within you become as clear as the morning quiet, yet awakening, not forcing, yet inviting, not dazzling in a showy way, yet bright enough for the lost to find the way. When you live like this, you become a walking prayer, a place of stillness in the hurried streets, a sign that my kindness is still working in very small things. Now, take a deep breath. Do not breathe like one preparing to flee from danger, but like one receiving again the gift of the present. Let that breath remind you that this day is not your enemy. Let the rhythm of your heart remind you that I am still giving you life moment by moment. Then walk not to prove that you are strong, not to defeat anyone, not to catch up with the voices that confuse your heart, but to live faithfully in the light I have placed before you. There are very small steps that make heaven rejoice, because within them there is faith. There are very quiet works that cause darkness to retreat, because within them there is love. There are days with no applause, yet I still call them beautiful, because you lived without giving up. My beloved child, there is a life that, once awakened again, no longer walks as it once did. Not because the road suddenly becomes smooth, nor because the wind stopped blowing through your life, but because a new foundation has been placed within you. Before, a small noise could startle you, a cold word could make you shrink back, an unexpected event could make you think you were about to be left behind. But when I touch the deepest place within you, when my grace seeps into the places that were once dry, you begin to see everything with different eyes. You no longer see only danger in the wind, but hear within it a reminder that you are still being carried forward. You no longer see only sadness in the rain, but recognize that rain can also soften the soil, wash away dust, and prepare the seeds that have lain still to break open. What once frightened you has not necessarily disappeared, but its power over you has weakened, because your heart is no longer empty as it once was. I know there were times when you thought strength meant walking quickly, speaking loudly, proving that you were not less than anyone else. You grew tired from chasing measures I never set. You tried to make everyone understand, tried to make everyone recognize you, tried to make your voice loud enough so you would not be forgotten. But my child, what has been restored by me does not need to make noise in order to be confirmed. A true lamp does not argue with the darkness, it simply burns. And the darkness retreats. A clear stream does not need to call the thirsty, it only remains pure. And the weary will come to it. So when you notice that you are no longer as hurried as before, do not think you are slowing down because of weakness. It is the sign of a heart that has learned to trust. You are slower, but steadier. You speak less, but your words carry more weight. You no longer need to rise in every argument, because you have learned that your worth does not rest in the applause of the crowd. There is a peace I give you that is not like the fragile calm of the world. The world calls it peace only when there are no waves. But I teach you peace, even while the boat is still crossing the deep lake. The world tells you that you must control everything before you can rest. But I tell you to place your hand in mine and learn to rest, even when you cannot yet see the whole road. Remember Eliah, who once stood bravely against opposing powers, yet later became exhausted under the tree and asked to stop because he thought he could not continue. I did not rebuke him with heavy words. I did not push him to stand up through pressure. I gave him sleep. I gave him bread. I gave him water. I let care come before commission. Then, when he had strength to go on, I did not meet him in terrifying noise or violent shaking, but in a gentle, quiet whisper. Do you see? My beloved, I do not always restore you through great events. Many times I heal you through rest, through food at the right time, through silence that does not threaten, through a gentle call strong enough to draw you back to faith. Therefore, do not despise the seasons when you find yourself learning again the smallest things, learning to breathe without panic, learning to walk without comparison, learning to listen without rushing to answer, learning to remain without losing yourself. To the world, these things may not seem radiant, but before me, they are precious stones polished in silence. When a heart is lifted from ashes, it carries a distinct tenderness. It no longer easily judges the weak, because it remembers what trembling felt like. It no longer mocks the slow, because it knows that some steps are paid for with many tears. It no longer uses sharp words to win, because it has been healed by kindness. You will find yourself becoming softer without becoming weaker, quieter without disappearing, humbler without losing your dignity. This is my work within you, not to turn you into a cold wall, but into a tree with deep roots, shade, and good fruit for the weary who pass by. Then there will be people who come near you without even knowing why. They may not say that they are hurting, but weariness will rest in their eyes. They may still smile, still work, still answer as usual. Yet within them, they are longing for a place where they do not have to perform strength. And you, if you remain in me, will learn to receive them not with curiosity, not with hurried teaching, not with easy conclusions, but with a gentle presence. You do not need to explain every mystery in their pain. You do not need to have answers for every question they have not dared to ask. Sometimes, what I want you to do is simply sit beside them, place a quiet space into their life, and let them know they have not been abandoned. A look without judgment can open what hundreds of pieces of advice cannot open. A hand lightly placed on a shoulder can speak in place of a long sermon. A silence filled with mercy can become a warm garment over someone who is cold. My child, remember that the life I place within you is not only so that you may rise alone, but so that through you, others may remember that they too can rise. But this does not mean you must carry the whole world on your shoulders. You are not the source. I am the source. You are only the vessel I fill. And when it is full, the water will overflow naturally. If you try to save everyone by your own strength, you will become exhausted. If you try to fix everything through worry, you will wear yourself down. But if you remain in my presence, if you allow me to continue caring for you, then the peace within you will become a gentle invitation to others. They will see in you a rhythm of life that is not swept away by chaos. They will feel a clear sky in the middle of heavy days. They will recognize that there is another way besides fear, besides striving, besides self-proving. So do not regret the seasons I used to deepen you. Do not regret the days that seemed to hold only tears and silence, because it was in those days that I taught you the language of compassion. One who has never been lifted may find it hard to understand the trembling of one who is lying down. One who has never been forgiven may struggle to offer tenderness to one who is lost. But you have been carried by me through dark passages, covered again by my care, called home not by the rod of punishment, but by the love of a father. Therefore, when you meet someone sitting in the dust of life, you will not kick more dust upon them. You will bend down. You will remember how I bent down toward you. You will not rush to pull them to their feet so they can appear fine. You will remain there long enough for them to believe that standing again is possible. From now on, when the wind blows, listen with gratitude. When rain falls, think of the seed. When the day slows down, do not see it as loss. There are slow steps that are keeping you from rushed detours. There are quiet spaces, protecting you from words that do not need to be spoken. There are seasons of rest preparing within you an endurance that haste can never produce. I have not called you to live in order to impress. I have called you to live so that you may shine in truth. And that light, my beloved child, does not need to shout. It only needs to remain. It only needs to be pure. It only needs to be faithful. When you remain in me, the life within you will testify on its own that what once faded does not necessarily have to be lost. What was once broken does not necessarily have to be discarded. And what once sank into ashes can still be breathed upon by me until it becomes a warm and healing flame for many others.